You need a big piece of flip chart paper and a table that both the coach and the coachee can sit at together, and some marker pens. The process starts by really exploring the problem and being able to state the problem very clearly. So the coach works with the coachee to define the problem and really think it through. Sometimes the problem that the coachee thinks they're tackling isn't actually the right problem. There's something sitting underneath that problem that is the real thing that they have to tackle. So the coach needs to help the coachee to really think through the problem and make sure that they are tackling the right issue. The coach writes the problem on the piece of paper. The process then jumps to thinking about the ideal outcome and being able to visualize what it would look like if the problem had been solved or the goal had been achieved. What is the ideal outcome? Now, the coach needs to be careful to make sure that they really are talking about the ideal outcome, not what the coachee thinks is possible or might be a half solution, but if this was really solved, if this goal was really achieved, what would that ideal be? And the coach writes this down on the paper. The coach then turns their attention to the potential blocks, and that starts with the blocks that might come from the coachee themselves. For example, they might not have the skill set, the knowledge and the understanding required to achieve an ideal outcome. Or maybe they have a difficulty with the time allocation for solving the problem, or maybe they don't feel that they have the confidence to carry out the action, or perhaps fear that others won't follow their lead. The coach helps the coachee to reflect on themselves as part of the problem and part of the ideal outcome. Sometimes the coachee realises that they're actually contributing to not achieving the ideal outcome by some of their behaviours, for example. The coach records the points on the sheet. The process then turns to other people. How might they be a block in achieving the ideal outcome? Because this helps to think about how they might also be part of the solution. Maybe it's people in the team that don't have the right knowledge, skills, understanding and experience to achieve the ideal outcome, and then for the coachee can think about how this could be resolved. The coachee might be struggling with relationships in the team and wish to explore how the interaction with other people in the team affects the ability to solve the problem. The third block is the situation itself. That might be, for example, a lack of resources available, the time and the money to be able to solve the problem in the way that the coachee desires. It might be legislation or an outside influence that they have to consider. The coach notes the points on the flip chart paper. When each of these aspects have been thoroughly explored, the coach turns their attention to considering the brainstorm of solutions to the problem. And this is the blue sky thinking element. All of the possible ways of solving the problem and achieving the ideal outcome are listed. There may be lots of possible ways that the problem can be solved and the ideal outcome achieved. It's really important that the coach makes sure that the coachee is not limiting their thinking to what can be easily achieved or what might be agreed or allowed. Instead, they must put down all of the possible answers and explore all of the routes forward. Sometimes there is something that is the only real solution, and it might be hard to achieve, but it's better to pursue that than go for a quick fix that doesn't really give you the ideal outcome. All the way through the process, the coach asks questions, helps the coachee to reflect, prompts thinking, and makes a record of the points raised. It usually takes 15 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on the size of the problem, and usually no more than half an hour. At the end of the process, both parties take a copy of the notes recorded and agree the first steps of action. Colleagues who complete this activity usually love it. They go away with lots of ideas and much greater clarity of thinking around the problem that they are tackling. It's about that clarity of thinking and the opportunity to stop in the busy day and reflect. The coachee is usually the best person to solve the problem, but they need help in thinking through how to achieve that. This is a great tool for heads and deputies when middle leaders potentially come into the office with a problem, that they want to pass the monkey of that problem from themselves to the head teacher or the deputy head teacher to solve. Instead, that time can be used to think through why the problem is there, what the problem actually is, what are the blocks to achieving it, what's that ideal outcome, and brainstorming possible solutions. So next time a middle leader perhaps comes into the office saying, I've got a problem, then perhaps arrange to meet with them for 15 minutes to 30 minutes and work on the problem together and talk through the issues and help empower them to take the action needed to solve the problem. Both take a copy of the notes and agree to meet in a few weeks' time or a few days' time, depending on what the issue is, to see how much progress has been made and to rethink through the issues.